What's happening, FlowChat connector? Sean back at you for another high ticket tune-up. In this video, we're going to talk about how to use NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming, in the sales copy that you could be writing to your prospects. Stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. Hey, FlowChat connector, Sean back at you here with another high ticket tune-up. In this video, like I mentioned, we're going to dive into NLP in sales copy. Really important video here because we're going to be talking about some secrets that you can deploy today and how to do it. I'm going to go through a little bit of framework and give you 3 steps that will absolutely change the game. So the question came from Angie, and Angie asked this. She said, Sean, can you use NLP in sales copy? Question mark. And as I was speaking with her, I said, well, absolutely, right? So they always talk about, persuasive copy, and that's why copywriters even have a niche. And the whole piece about, writing good sales copy is getting people to look at your viewpoint and go down the path of exactly what you're trying to convey to them. And so as we kind of dive into this one today, I'm going to dive into my slides like I always do. We got Yoda with us. By the way, if you have any comments about this, if you disagree, you agree, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it because it's always a conversation. Don't forget to smash that like button and feed the algorithm gods, because we definitely need more people writing better copy, because I've seen so much poor copy that's out there. But let's talk about it, right? So what are the 3 secrets in using NLP sales copy? Well, there's only 3, and here they are. Number 1, when you move into the copywriting zone, the first thing we need to do is just set up our clear outcome. What is the clear outcome that you want to have for somebody reading your sales copy? Is it to book a call? Is it to buy something? Is it to, think a different way? Is it to go watch a video? Is it to inspire somebody to do something different, right? So the first thing we do is we just write out like what we actually are designing. So if we're writing just a sales letter that we're going to send in the mail, if we're writing a web page to get people to take action, like whatever you're going to write, what's the outcome you want at the end of the day? And it could be as simple as I want somebody to buy something from me, right? And depending on what you're selling, now somebody could buy something right from a sales page. That happens all the time. People can buy from an email sequence. You can buy from a messaging sequence. There's a lot of ways you could do that, but all we need to do is set up whatever the clear outcome is going to be. Secondly, we dive into something called the sequence of internal representations. This is where the NLP part really starts to play a role. And I'm going to give you some pro tips at the end that I just thought about when you're writing something like an email, right? So email pro tip, I'll share at the end. So stick with me all the way to the end. And I'm going to dive into the sequence of internal representations because that's more so the NLP stuff that you need to know and how to deploy that. And then the last thing is you got to have the right process. You got to have a sales process that actually has been documented to work. And we're going to dive into that too. So the sequence of internal representations, there's lots of filters I use. One of them is the 1-sentence persuasion course written by Blair Warren. If you haven't gotten that book, go grab it now. And I'm going to go through the 27-word sentence that he created on how to persuade anyone. Now, as you're writing things, think about this. We're talking about the sequence of internal representation. This means we've already decided what the outcome is going to be when somebody reads our copy, and now we're diving into what actually needs to be written. Well, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we encourage their dreams, right? So again, on a piece of paper, write out what the clear outcome is. Right below that, now we're going to take the sequence of internal representation and use this filter for our copy. It's a very easy way to write copy. All you have to do is encourage your prospects' dreams in your first 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. That's all you have to do, right? Talk about what they're trying to achieve, imagine your life with this product or service that you offer, and the benefits and the fruits, and always start at the end. And so when we encourage dreams, we want to start there. So write 1 or 2 sentences about how that person's dreams would be encouraged. It's a little bit of a thought exercise. Give yourself some space to write that, but it's very easy to do once you've started to do it a couple of times. All it does is takes a little practice, okay? Next thing we need to put in our copy is how we justify their failures. Nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to be wrong. But what people really love is for other people to validate that it's not their fault, right? Hey, just because you climbed in the online space and you ran a challenge and it didn't work out, like, it's not your fault, right? It's probably just because you had a bad coach, or maybe you weren't streaming on the right platform, or there's all these reasons why it's not your fault, and that's okay, right? When you're justifying somebody's failures, they're instantly going to change the way that they're viewing solving this problem, that's a very powerful move. So when we just justify their failures, which is the next thing that needs to be in our copy. And by the way, it's in this order. So first of all, just write out the clear outcome. And then as we start, I like to, when I write stuff, I'll say, what's the outcome, right? So I'll make a little sentence about that. This is internally before I actually go writing the copy. And then I'll bullet point out, like, what are the dreams that I want to encourage? What are the failures that I want to justify? What are the fears that I want to put to rest? Like, hey, you could go down the path of paying paid ads and you're going to spend a lot of money, right? Like, but you don't have to do that if you follow a specific process. And now I've just put that fear of, I don't want to spend a ton of money on paid ads to rest, right? We could talk about that. So that's just one example. So it's like money on paid ads as an example. Or don't want to get into the cycle of running a virtual summit or a challenge, or the organic method takes too long. Like, those are all fears that people have, right? And so we do want to write maybe one or two little bullet points about this, and then we'll go back and take this kind of outline and build sales copy. Next one is we want to confirm their suspicions. Well, man, Sean, doesn't direct outreach take a ton of work? Yeah, it does, actually. You're probably thinking like, man, Sean, you talk about this outreach method all the time, but I just feel like I'd be sitting in Messenger and hustling all day long or doing something like that. Well, the fact of the matter is, yeah, it does take work, right? But if you efficiently organize the work and you have a tool like FlowChat as an example, then it doesn't become so much of a burden. And in fact, you can get it done by this much time in a day, right? And so now I've confirmed the fact that yes, it is going to take work, but if you optimize it, it's not going to be that bad. And so that's more of like the confirming suspicions. And so in my copy, I'd be like, what are the suspicions that I want to confirm? And I'd write down one or two bullet points, and then I'd go to the next one, which is, now let's throw rocks at enemies. And for example, if I'm throwing rocks at paid ads, I'll just kind of stay on the same track here. I would say something like, nobody wants to throw money into the internet ether using paid ads and hope that their cost per lead is going to stay under a certain amount, because we just never know. And so I never like to not know when I'm doing something. Rather, I would have a clear outcome and I'd have a pathway of doing that. And by shifting from paid ads, now I love paid ads, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, there are way better ways to get started doing something different. If we're talking about traffic methods and direct outreach, I'd throw rocks at paid ads all day long, right? I'd throw rocks at virtual summits. I'd throw rocks at challenges. But the thing that I love is I love all of those things, and they're all powerful things. But when you're writing copy and you're getting somebody to think in a representative way of where you're trying to take them, these are the 5 bullet points that are the main categories that I actually will draw bullet points from. And so I'll have my clear outcome, and then I'll list, like, these things become kind of the main body of my copy. And then once we have that, all we have to do at the end is throw down a call to action. And if we have a call to action, then we're going to get the results that we want. Hey, click here to schedule a call, click here to buy now, do this kind of a thing to do that, right? And that's really what we get to after we've changed the states, right? And of course, these are all going to shift depending on the awareness level of your prospect. However, if you take a little bit of time before you start writing copy and you actually outline the stuff and you go through this filter. Now I have other filters that I use. This is just one of them. It's one of the main ones I use all the time. I wanted to share it with you because I think it's powerful. But you can persuade anybody if you follow this formula. It's right here, written for you. So all you need to do is write one sentence on how to encourage dreams, justify failures, allay the fears, or allay means put their fears to rest, basically. Confirm suspicions, and then throw rocks at the enemy. And then you have a call to action at the end of that and a nice introduction. You've got yourself a badass piece of sales copy using an internal representation system that you know is proven. And this is how you're going to start to create NLP in your sales copy, by following a formula similar to this. Now, step 3 is the last one, right? What's the right process once you've developed and launched the sales copy, wherever it's going to be launched, whether it's in a sequence, whether it's on a website or a page or whatever you're writing? What's the right process for you? Now, once you get people to move forward, right? So the objective in your copy is to get people to take action. That's it. Right? So take the next step. It doesn't have to be like go all the way to the end, but it's like if you're trying to engage somebody in a conversation, what's the first step? You want engagement. So don't try throwing an offer at that person for the first message. It's never going to be a good idea. Rather, ask something that you can kind of both connect on and get them to say something back to you. That's the only process that you need to have dialed in if that's where you're at, right? And so now as we look at the right process, you must use a selling system. So whatever the selling system is that you're using, if you don't have one, go look one up or come hang out with me. We have a 7-step ascension method that I've used to close hundreds of millions of dollars with. I know it works in business to consumer, business to business, business to government, because I sold it using it in all of those places. And so very, very simply, have yourself a selling system, right? And so if you don't, you'll default to the prospect selling system. Let's go through this again. I've done it a couple of times if you've heard one of my other videos, but very simply, if you don't have your own selling system, again, I have a 7.1 that we use and teach, but this, if you don't have one, this is the one you're probably going to default to, the prospect system. And it's very simple: lie, steal, lie, hide. That's it. So let me go over this and then I'll give you that pro tip about writing emails. Lying. So somebody comes, say you want to buy a TV screen, you go to Best Buy and you bring your spouse, and then you go back and then the sales guy comes up and he's like, hey, what are you looking for? And you say, hey, I'm actually looking for a TV. Oh, okay, great. Or, usually what happens is when you go into the store, you say, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just here. I'm just checking it out. Well, that's a lie, right? As a prospect, like, you're lying because you're simply saying, no, I'm actually here to buy a TV, but I'm not going to tell the sales guy that. And then your spouse leaves you and all of a sudden you say, hey, sales guy, tell me about the TVs. Takes you back, right? And he says, well, tell me about this one here. And they just shower all the features and benefits, and you steal, as a prospect, you steal all that information. And then you're like, oh my God, this is perfect. Thank you so much. And I got to go get approval from my spouse. Now, that was a lie because you probably had a budget before you came into the store. So that's the third step. You've lied to the sales guy, you've stolen all of his information, and then you go across the store and grab your spouse and say, let's get out of here. I know exactly the television I want. And then that sales guy's giving me all the information, and they run out the store, and the sales guy's left scratching his head like, where'd you go? Right? So as a sales guy, that sucks to be in that position. So if you're defaulting to this, know that it's a system and you're getting duped every single time. So if you don't have the right process, definitely hit me up in a message. Click the link below, come join our community. But that's the key. And the pro tip on the email writing that I mentioned to you is very simple. There's three things that people generally look at when they go to email. The first thing is the headline. If you don't have a great headline, need to change it. That's number one. Number two, they look at your PS the most after that. So your headline needs to be bulletproof. Secondly, your PS line needs to be really, really proper and powerful. And the last thing they'll look at is if you have bullet points in the middle of your message. So it goes title or headline, PS line, and then the bullet points inside the middle of the criteria of whatever you're writing. So focus on those three things. The rest is just filler, and then you'll start to write yourself better emails. And again, make sure, as we go back here, I just want to share this again, is these are the three secrets. Have a clear outcome, use a sequence of internal representations like the persuasion code that I just shared, and then have a process at the end to actually make sure that you can close the deal. And this, my friends, is how you can use NLP in sales copy. I hope this one helped you. I know it's really powerful. And Angie, go smash it with this. This is awesome. With that said, you've just been tuned up. I love your face, and I can't wait to see you next time.